I struggle with cleaning the flat sometimes, all right? Well, sometimes I just get home and I'm tired, just like anyone else, right? And it's easy for me to just avoid it. So I have found something that really works and it's so easy, okay? My goal is to go into a room and clean up three items. So that means if I go to a kitchen and there's a knife, a fork and a spoon in the sink, I'll put them into the dishwasher, all right? Just three items, that's it. It sounds so stupid, like what is that gonna do for cleaning the flat? When you go into a room and you do three items and you start putting it into there, you start noticing there's a few more items and you're like, oh, I might as well put all the cutlery in there. And then you're like, oh, there's only a bowl left, I'll put the bowl in there. And you're like, oh, actually the side's a bit dirty, I might as well just wipe it whilst I'm here. Before you know it, you have literally cleaned one part of the room or potentially the whole flat just by one tiny little decision to do one small thing.
Welcome back to the Perform Well podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're looking for performance and wellness optimization so that you can not only smash your career, but also have a better life, better relationships, and better health. We believe that performance and wellness are yin and yang and work together. So listen in as we dive into topics that are going to help you optimize your life for the better.
It's 2025 and this is our first podcast in 2 weeks since Dan's been on holiday. Dan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I had a lovely time away in India, so it's good to be back. It's good to be back podcasting again and getting the ball rolling. I didn't know that Nick's doing a musical number or our podcast is turned musical. But
well, right now, I look more tan than you, Dan, and you've been away in Goa. And I've been in -2 degrees since you've been away, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's been cold. And actually, I tell you what, the worst thing is a little bit of smugness from me. When I was away, I sat there constantly looking, and I've never looked at the weather app so much in my life, but I was comparing the two weathers. And I sat there, and I was like, it's like 34 degrees here, and it's like -2 in the UK. And I was like, I've never done a winter holiday, hence why there was a level of smugness. And I think anyone on here who's listening will be like, I actually would love to have a winter holiday right now.
The only thing you have missed out in the UK though is it's actually been really nice and sunny. Although cold, sunny, and it's actually been quite a pick me up.
Yeah,
you have missed out, mate.
I think we need that. I think we need that.
Right. Well, today we're gonna jump into something that's going to help you change your life. All right. We're not life coaches, although it's very easy to distinguish us as that when we talk about self-development. But if you were to do what we're going to talk about today, you can very much change your life. And it's by doing things that will also change your body as well. So what we're talking about is habits. Now, Dan, you've not read Atomic Habits, have you?
I have not, but I've read many, many books that are very similar, like 7 Habits for a Highly Efficient Life or Effective Life, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I've done a lot of self-development.
So Dan is massively on habit building. That's one thing that me and Dan have in common, except we've been reading different books. I've read this one. That's what we're going to talk about today, Atomic Habits. And then in a future one, we'll talk more about what habits you could potentially build. So to kickstart things off then, Dan, I'm just going to obviously give you the lowdown of what a habit is, and then we can talk about it deeper. But when it comes to the 4 laws of behavior change, this is what Atomic Habits talks about. The first thing with a habit is to make it obvious. That is the awareness stage. You need to be aware of what habits you are actually doing and are impacting your life. So Dan, obviously, you probably don't know the structure from this book, but what are some habits that would impact someone's life in a positive way?
I mean, easy habits that come into your day by day, I think create, and this is one structure from a guy called Higher Up Wellness. And if anyone's familiar with this guy, he's a guy who does similar to what we do, does performance and well-being in the US. And he said, basically, if you create these 3 habits daily that are around mental health, physical health, and then income health, I like to call it, these 3 things are going to allow prosperity throughout your life. So it's creating 3 minute daily chores or daily tasks that you can do that are really, really simple and really easily broken down. This isn't saying go run like a 5K or 10K a day, because it's unrealistic, it's unachievable, and you're not going to see, well,
one punch man, bro. 10K a day.
One Punch Man, yeah. Well, apart from the anime One Punch Man, yeah, I agree with you there. That can be done. But from a realistic standpoint of human beings, unless you're like David Goggins, you're not going to do that. But yeah, the breakdown of habits are just a simplified thing that you can do. And I actually think one thing to start off more on kind of a kind of personal side, what I found is sometimes people can give themselves too many habits to do at one point in time, and then it gets overwhelming, and then you don't actually complete them over a prolonged period of time, because habits are there to kind of brood consistency, and if we're not brooding consistency, then you won't see the benefits from those habits.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'll tell you on a personal level what habits, one big habit that I changed, which made a big fucking difference, right? Last year for a good probably 6 months, I didn't even realize I was doing this. I'd wake up in the morning at 5:30, telling myself, "Oh, I'm getting up at 5:30, so I must be getting shit done." And I'd go make a coffee, go make some oats. I'd lie down on the sofa, put the bear rug over me, and I would close my eyes and listen to YouTube videos and imagine that I'm doing something productive. Fast forward that to 6 months later, and the last 3 weeks in particular, I have been getting up at 5:30. First thing I do is I go prepare my food and my coffee. I then take it into my office. I sit down on the floor and I meditate. And meditate for me is just literally, the first thing I do is I do some breath work, just very simple, about a minute. I breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That's one way of doing it. Then I meditate. I basically just sit in my space for about 2 minutes. Then I think about what I'm grateful for. Then I think about what it is I want to achieve. And I imagine I've already done it. Okay, very simple. Nothing more than 8 to 10 minutes. I then sit down on my desk. I then read my book for 10 minutes. At the moment, I'm reading this. All right. And those 10 pages a day, which is what my goal is, and you could read more. I used to read 30, 40 pages a day, but now I read 10 pages a day. And that fucking helps so much more because I don't miss a day. 10 pages is so easy to do that you don't miss a day. Before, I was reading 40 pages and I wouldn't read it for 2 weeks. And because of that, over 2 weeks, I've already got through that much of the book. Okay. And so that's crazy. And after that, I eat my food, drink my coffee, watch a little bit of YouTube for 20 minutes, ready for the day. And that has made the biggest impact. One tiny change in the way I start the beginning of my day has made the rest of my day just so much better and so much easier.
Now, I do think there's going to be some listeners and watchers out there that are probably going to turn around and say, well, I don't have the time to do that. And what I want to say to those people from the off is, I'm not one of those people to sit here and basically be like, you have the time. You always can find the time. It's finding one simple thing that you can do in your life. Okay, say we've got a lady out there who works for the NHS. She's doing a nursing job, but she's got kids she needs to get ready in the morning. She doesn't have the time to do like a 10-minute meditation, 10-minute book reading, 10-minute, even get coffee. But what can she do within that time frame? Now, one thing, say if you do like a coffee in the morning, you do have time to put the kettle on. For the time it takes the kettle to boil, you're looking about 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you can do an efficient breathwork routine. Like literally just take yourself away from the room for 2 minutes and literally, as Nick said, do something really simple. Do like 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Something that can work in today. That habit over time is going to have more of an impact than not doing anything at all because you're saying you don't have the time. Okay. And that, again, this isn't me saying you have the time to do it, but you can work it into your life. So when you're putting habits in, look at your own lifestyle, look what will work from the beginning and then build on that. Don't just go, okay, I've heard the podcast from Perform Well. Nick does this, this, and this. I'm going to do this and this because it might not work into your lifestyle.
But I mean, I would say though, like if you do have kids and obviously the kids are waking you up in the morning, maybe if you can, try and wake up 15 minutes before that normally happens, and then you've got 15 minutes to yourself. Like, I don't know. I've spoken to a lot of parents in the past, and they tell me the same thing. They rush off their feet. They always feel like they've got no time for themselves, and I can imagine how hard that is to then go and do things that you've got to do that are good for your body and good for your health. And I feel like it's helped myself and it's helped other people just to get up a little bit earlier. And I know it feels a bit tiring. The last thing you want to do is doing that when you're fatigued. But then that also might mean go to bed slightly earlier, or maybe clean up your evening routine to a point where you sleep faster and you sleep deeper. It's not always about like saying you have no time and not doing anything about it. You've got to try and find ways you can manipulate what you've got available to you. And if you generally do have only 5 hours a night because you've got a screaming 1-year-old, I feel for you. Like, honestly, that's hard. That's difficult. And I get it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, like again, I haven't got kids. Nick hasn't got kids. Like the closest thing I have to a kid is maybe a dog I used to have. But like, if you've got kids as well, there's another thing I'll put in there. It was something I learned from the Chatterjee podcast, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee podcast, and he was saying even integrate your kids or like partners or other family members into like some kind of morning routine for you because it makes it easier to manage it. Like I think a lot of the time when you're wanting to do stuff like meditation, wanting to do stuff like breath work or like do like a simple stretch routine, we want to be in our own space, we want to have our own time, but realistically we are not a guru sat on a mountain having all the time in the world where we can have that moment of peace and serenity. It doesn't work when you live in a big city. So maybe integrate like family members. If a kid comes over, instead of saying like fuck off, basically turn around and say, look, give this a go with mum and dad. Like try this little stretch routine, get them involved, have a bit of fun. And I think that's one thing that I think can come across into the next point we want to make is making the habit attractive. Like if you're doing a habit, make it attractive to do. Don't create a barrier of something that you really don't want to do. Like, look, cold plunges. Me and Nick know how great they are. They are fantastic for your mental well-being.
Mate, I don't know what you're about.
They're one of the least attractive things to do, though. Like, let's be honest. Unless you are a determined soldier in your mind that you want to do cold plunges every day, and you look at the characteristics of the people that do them every day, there's a different level of discipline there. And I'm not suggesting Katie from up the road starts doing cold plunges in a Lumi ice bath in the middle of Southampton. I wouldn't recommend that. Like maybe a cold shower if you want it, but making it attractive. So
do you know a cold shower is apparently worse because the water is constantly running over your skin, and as your skin acclimatizes to it, it then gets washed off. The warmth, I mean, it's really interesting. But let's just go back to the start real quick, making it obvious. That's the first step. That's the cue, right? In order to know what habit to change, I'm not saying the morning routine is the one you have to change, although it is one of the best ones to start with. Let's start with something that is relatively easy to change, because if you try and change the hardest thing, like say quit smoking, for example, you might not have yet the willpower and the confidence that you can actually make that change happen. So let's start with something that's easy to do. Now, the first thing we do is we need to write down a list of our habits. And so we need to, first of all, take 15 minutes to do this. So if you haven't got time or you're listening to this while you're walking around, try and find a 15-minute block today or tomorrow to do this, okay, or the weekend. Write down your list of habits. Next to that list, you're going to write down the good ones, the ones that impact your life in a positive way, the ones that are neutral, and the ones that are bad that you have to change, because otherwise your life's going to be worse, okay? And then you need to find the challenge that is exciting enough for you that you want to change it, will make an impact, and you know you can potentially do it if you stick to it. Because obviously if you don't do those things, then you won't stick to it. Simple. Okay. Yeah. That's the first thing. Now, implementation intentions is the next thing in the book that comes up. And this is actually something that we both do, Dan, with ourselves and our clients. And you know, when you ask your clients that they need to schedule stuff into their diary, that is what an implementation intention is. That is it. It's scheduling it in your diary. I'm scheduling a meal prep, schedule your morning routine, schedule your water intake, etc.
It's so much harder to cancel something if you put it in, because it's like when we book appointments. A lot of people like PT because of like you book in an appointment, or you online coaching because you book in a call. So like it's that physical thing that you can visually see every single day. Because let's be brutally honest, you go on your calendar like 2-3 times a day at least. So you feel guilty, and it's a little bit of a guilt trip, but it's a guilt trip on yourself. So you're guilt tripping yourself to basically looking at it and going, yeah, I can't miss that later today. I've scheduled that in, because you feel worse for it. It's like when we stuff our faces full of heroes after Christmas. We actually feel worse for stuffing our faces with heroes. Without that moment, though, we don't realize how important it is to have that kind of like period of time. So yeah, implementation intentions, make sure you write down exactly what you're doing and when you're doing it. And actually that brings us on to kind of the next part of this step, which is environment design. Modify your surroundings to encourage the habit. So like the key thing from the Atomic Habits book and 7 Habits for a Healthy, Effective Lifestyle is creating an area where you can do it. For example, behind me, I do my meditation in the morning. My mat is one of the first things I see. So like when I walk in, it's underneath like my boards over here. So as soon as I look, it's there and I have space to do it. Don't stick this in your garage. You're not going to have room to do your meditation or stretches or whatever you want to do. I know we keep using that as an example, but it's an easy one to folloll. Or put something there to help you.
For me, at the moment, I'm currently trying to drink more water. And for me, personally, I find it easier to drink bottled water at the moment. I have nothing wrong with tap water necessarily. I just don't, I'm not nowhere near it right now. I have to go walk for fucking 30 seconds to go there. Whereas these are right next to my desk. Now, I will change this for metal bottles in. But it's the same thing. Same thing as you said. Having it by your side. And that also means that if you're surrounded by snack food and you're trying to stop snacking, then you also need to do the opposite. And that is remove it from your environment. You know, Bavari's third law in Precision Nutrition's manual is that if there's food in the kitchen, you will eat it. So whatever you have available to you, you'll eat it. And then lastly with that as well, you can also stack habits. So if you've got like let's say we're going down the morning routine, yeah? You wake up, your goal is to wake up and then do some meditation. All right, cool. So you can stack that meditation with then doing something else on top of that afterwards. without actually having to create two different habits. All right. So, for example, if you sit down and have a meditation session for 5 minutes, you then go up and then you journal in your diary for the day, and then that becomes a habit in its own self as an overall kind of group. So once you've structured your habit, if there's any other habits you think would stack nicely with that, you can then do that too.
Yeah, I agree. Apologies for interrupting the podcast. We know you're getting fully engrossed into this episode, and we really appreciate you stopping on the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you found us through one of the search pages. Make sure to leave a review and a subscription if you haven't already. But we just wanted to interject a point here that me and Nick have 15 years of coaching experience between us, and it's only getting better as we've got better guests on the podcast. The only way we can do that, though, is with the growth of our program that we've just released. We've got a 12-month Perform Well program, which has just dropped, and we'd love you guys to get involved in it. If you want to learn more details, make sure to head to the description, as we've got our website in there, which can give you a full overlay of the program. We're looking to help career-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and anyone dominate their life by improving their lifestyle. Me and Nick like to claim ourselves as experts in this area, and if you want to check out some of our other transformations, I'm sure you do. We've got some amazing people who have performed so well off the back of this program. Have a cracking day, and we really appreciate your time. Let's get back to the podcast. And actually, we're going on to the second part here. So the second part in the book, which is making it attractive and craving to do the habit. So it's something that you want to do every day because you know the profound benefits of it. So temptation bundling. Pair the habit you need to do with one you enjoy. So, for example, if you're doing cardio, a lot of people like doing their cardio in the mornings or some kind of little exercise routine. Pairing it with like watching TV or watching a series that you enjoy makes the habit seem less like work. And a lot of people do it when they go into the gym, when they watch cardio. You'll see people, if they're doing the 20 minutes cardio, they'll put an episode of a YouTube series or a Netflix series and they'll watch it because it takes it away from that kind of more grueling process of the cardio itself. Because I'm going to be honest, there's nothing more boring than staring at the whole rubber seams of a Stairmaster or a treadmill or something. But find something that integrates in. So bundle things together with something that you enjoy doing and make that balance.
And that's the same thing with listening to this podcast. If, you know, I don't know anyone that could sit there and stare at a wall listening to a podcast, you know, or you could watch our podcast on YouTube, you know. But if you're walking somewhere and you've got 30 minutes and you're not meditating for those 30 minutes, as in like you're not trying to be present and listen to absolutely anything, put some headphones in, listen to a podcast, boom.
Easy stuff. And actually, like throughout this section, there's also other sections about making it desirable. So like joining, like if you want to get into running and say you want to just kind of get into more kind of normal habits, join a run club, join like a yoga club, like something that where it makes it seem more normal. Because I think a lot of habits before you do them can seem strange because they're not part of our normal lifestyle. So your body goes, oh, what's this? Similarly, you know, if you joined like a cold shower club, maybe go and join like a cold sauna by the beach if you live near the beach and you're lucky enough to. That kind of stuff makes things seem more normal. So in our mind, cognitively, we start to think, oh, actually, this is okay. This is not going to be like a big triumphant task to do. And actually, that leads on to the final point of this section, which is create like a motivation ritual, something that brings you up and gives you a lift when you want to do this. So if you're not feeling like doing your habit, what kind of self-talk can you do to tell yourself to go and do that habit? Remember how it makes you feel and remember what happens if you miss it. I miss my stretches in the morning. I'm really stiff, tired, and don't feel great for the day. Same thing with like planking core, that kind of anything that you do, you've kind of got to remember about the negative side to bring about that kind of positive motivation to drive you forward as well.
Yeah, 100%. And is there anything else you want to cover on the attractive side of things? Does everyone know what that means?
I think, if there's any questions, obviously, please leave them in the comments. We're more than happy to answer them. So I think just go on. I think one thing I want to say with the attractiveness is, again, this may sound weird, make it visually attractive for yourself. So like I've got my boards behind me that you'll see here if you're watching or if you're listening. I've got like my quadrants of efficiency. Anyway, basically it's a board with all my tasks on. The way that I have my habits is I normally write them down so then I can visually see them in a color-coded format, and it makes it visually appealing for me. So then I'm kind of leading through. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do at a bare minimum today to feel good about myself? These 3 things. Great. And just tick them off. Just one thing I want to add in there.
No, perfect. No worries. I just obviously want to make sure that we're both clear with what we're, if there's anything we want to add to it. Because if you are listening to this, as Dan said, feel free to drop a comment if you need any more help with it. Now, the next thing is making it easy. Okay, you've got to make your habit easy. Now, the one thing I do with making it easy is I like to set up my environment the night before. Okay, so an evening routine is just as important for your morning routine than just waking up in the morning. And so one thing I do in the evening, and it doesn't take more than 5 minutes, is I get my journal out, I write the wins of the day, so 3 wins if I can. I write one lesson, one thing I'm grateful for, and I write my priorities for the next day. After that, I set my bowl up in the kitchen with my spoon in it, or pre-prepare my overnight oats or whatever in the fridge. And then for my coffee, I'll actually get my coffee next to my cup in the morning with the spoon in there, etc. So when I wake up in the morning, my brain doesn't have to think and make decisions. I can literally just get on it because it's easy. I've set up my environment for success. For you, that might mean getting your workout clothes, putting them on the floor, putting your shoes next to them. When you wake up, they're there. You don't have to go searching around the house for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, I think that kind of reduction of friction you've spoken about there makes it a lot easier to complete these simple tasks. Because the thing is, the daily habit should be simple. We shouldn't be creating like an overcomplicated thing that, again, causes a lot of stress before we do it.
Yeah. And I've actually got, mate, I don't know about you, but I've actually, so Emma will probably tell you this, right? I struggle with cleaning the flat sometimes, all right? And Emma hates me for it. She's like, why can't you clean the flat more times? It's like, well, sometimes I'm just get home and I'm tired, just like anyone else, right? And it's just it's easy for me to just avoid it. So I have found something that really works with cleaning your house and cleaning your flat. And it's so easy. Okay. My goal is to go into a room, and my goal is to go into a room, and clean up three items. So that means if I go to a kitchen and there's a knife, a fork, and a spoon in the sink, I'll put them into the dishwasher. All right, just 3 items. That's it. It sounds so stupid. Like, what is that going to do for cleaning the flat? But when you go into a room and you do 3 items and you start putting it into there, you start noticing there's a few more items, and you're like, oh, I might as well put all the cutlery in there. And then you're like, oh, there's only a bowl left. I'll put the bowl in there. And you're like, oh, actually, the side's a bit dirty. I might as well just wipe it whilst I'm here. Before you know it, you have literally cleaned one part of the room, or potentially the whole flat, just by one tiny little decision to do one small thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Talking about kind of making things easier again and simplifying stuff. There's a little rule that, again, you've enlightened to me from the Atomic Habits book, which is the 2-minute rule. And it's setting yourself 2 minutes to like start building and like that habit up. So don't set yourself something crazy that's going to take you 30, 40 minutes from the off, because you're more than likely going to stop that later down the line because it won't align with your current lifestyle. Start off with something that's 2, 3, 4 minutes long and just build that up over time. Add 10 seconds, 20 seconds. A good example of this is I've been doing planks for the last like 5 years, and I've built my planks up by 5 seconds every single month, right from doing 5 seconds to about 2 minutes 30 now. I do take like sequential breaks. Say if I get to about like 2 minutes, it was really hard, I stay on that for a couple of months. But like, it's building that up over time.
You got a while to go, man, to the world record.
Exactly. And I'm not thinking I'm going to do 9 hours, you know.
That's great. That's cool though. I don't know any other person that does plank every day.
It's good for my core. I just find it's a kind of that's my version of meditation, and actually it comes into this like that's my version of like I do breathing exercises whilst I'm planking, so I'm doing 2 things at once.
You should like mix this all together. Do breath work in the plank whilst meditating with cold water running on your back.
Just have like L trickling like something down my back while I'm doing it. I mean, that would be. I can tell you what. I need to set up like a camera in my room and then have that shining across. Get some amazing lighting, and I can make it really motivational. Like, you want to get hard? You got to do your planks in the morning. And then just like shaking and vibrating as I'm having like water drip on my head. Yeah, that could be a thing.
That's funny, man.
No, it's a way of doing it.
Well, look, the last thing with these habits, guys, is you've got to make it satisfying. It has to have a reward associated with it, because if it's not going to give you anything, there's no point doing it. And that reward is not, we're not talking about a short-term reward, we're talking about a long-term reward. So you're not necessarily going to feel any benefit in the short term. All right, that's delayed gratification. We need to get used to this. So one good thing you can do if you complete a habit, all right, is give yourself an award. And it might be you do the habit, give yourself the reward straight away, just so you start getting used to it. Or potentially it's something that you do over the course of a week. Let's say you do 7 days in a row, you give yourself a particular reward. I'm trying to think of one, but I can't for some reason. Let's say the habit is you need to stop smoking, all right? Maybe your reward is you haven't smoked today, so you can now go on to, I don't know. I can't think of a fucking reward today.
Let's go to food and diet. Say you've been really good at food for 7 days. You are allowed to have an
Mm.
extra snack on one day. So you can have an extra like naughty snack, shall we say, on that day. And you can have like a Kinder Egg, or you can have like your favorite chocolate bar, because that is rewarding. When you look forward to that, it is rewarding. It's very minute, but this is the kind of point Nick needs to make. I think the smoking is hard because me and you don't smoke. So it's difficult to
I'm
say.
talking about smoking, and I don't
Yeah.
fucking have a clue.
Yeah, I
I'm
was going
like,
to say, what would the gratification be? Put a nicotine patch on? Sure. Like, do that. Chew some nicotine gum. Those kind of things can work. But like,
yeah,
yeah, have that kind of thing. And actually, you've got to make sure to do this kind of stuff. You got to track your progress, because if you're not tracking things, you don't visually have that kind of like loading bar to see the things that you're doing over time and seeing the progress. Because same thing if you're dropping weight. If you're not measuring your weight changes, it's very difficult to see yourself making progress as much as it goes.
yes, yes. I actually have an app called Habit Kit. Now, for anyone watching, this is not a plug. Except this is not a plug. Obviously, we're not getting fucking sponsored for this yet. There's an app called Habit Kit, and I love it because it's so simple. You can put your habits in there, and there's like these 5 boxes, which is basically the last 5 days. And when you tick it, it then shifts across, and you can see what habits you're actually on track with and what you're not. And then you can see your entire year after that. But it has helped me so much, the simplicity of it, to see my habits being tracked. And I can start to see the volume of them getting more and more and more. And because, you know, I have obviously failed some of my habits the last couple of weeks, just like you probably are when you first start. But when you start to see them all starting to be ticked off more often, you start getting a little bit more motivated to then continue trying to tick them all off. It's like a little game. It gamifies your life. And before you know it, it's now part of what you do. And then you can add more habits, and you can change your life even more, and you can get in better shape, and you can lose weight. Blah 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 blah. Okay.
What was it called again? What was the name of that app?
Habit Kit.
Habit Kit.
Now,
Link in the description.
if you want to put more than, I think it's 5 habits, then you will have to pay £1.49 a month. It's so cheap, but it is free up to 5 habits. So use it. One rule for habit that I've always stuck by is, if you miss a habit once, it's okay. If you miss it 2 days in a row, that's when you're likely to break the habit. I think it's actually a rule there somewhere, a statistic that shows that you're 80% more likely to continue your habit if you miss it once, but you're 80% likely to not follow your habit if you miss it twice.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I noticed that. Like, if I start dropping off on my stretching like this, I'll be brutally honest. Come back from holiday and I haven't done. I think I've done my stretches like 2 or 3 times. I've trained once, you know. I haven't done my habits, and it is so much harder to be motivated to do it. Like today was the hardest planks I've ever done because I went straight in again. But like, it is that kind of just take a bit of mindfulness to give yourself a little bit of that kind of like. Just say, look, I need to do this. It's important to me. There's a reason I'm doing this. I think the reason that people fall off as well is they don't see that, as I say, you said delayed gratification, really good key terminology, because they don't see that immediate return off it. So if we can start to kind of scoop that up and pull it back in, I think it's the best way. And actually, one way you can do that is you've got a buddy, you've got an accountability partner, someone who sits there and tells you, hey, we need to do this. Like me and Nick in business, we have like our DMs that we do. We message people, we outreach. And we said to each other, we're going to message 20, 25 people daily, but we can be accountable for each other there and say, have you been messaging people? Have you been messaging people? Why haven't you done this? When one of us is dropping off, what's our reasoning? If it's valid, fair. You broke your leg, you can't do it, and you're not feeling in good shape, fair. But like, you know, if there's little things like, I couldn't quite fit it in my day, I'm struggling with this, you know, it gives someone a kick up the bum. People have running partners, similar thing. You kind of have that kind of motivation, that attitude between 2 of you to drive yourself on, and I think that's one of the key things.
Yeah, and exactly, and that can be also having a coach. That can also having a training program. That can also be part of a community, like what we do. Like the DM thing that we held each other accountable for. First of all, we hired a coach. We paid money to have someone basically be there and get us to do it. And like, you don't need to necessarily know anything more than you already know. You just need to do it. And like, to do that, sometimes you need someone there with you. Okay. And so if you are someone that is looking to make a change with your life and your body this year, then we're the perfect fit for helping you get in the better shape of your life. And we'll do that through that accountability, through giving you the habits that you need to actually change, through training programs, meal plans, etc. But you just need to have someone in your corner. Right.
And it's like everything that we've just spoken about here, we do through our coaching program.
Yeah.
You know, we are supplying people at the minute our 28-day challenge. We're supplying this experience, this kind of, you know, hands-free approach that we kind of take that off your back. You don't have to do the heavy lifting. We create the habit for you. We make sure you're doing it. And we have these baselines that we set that we want you to do every single day. And we make sure they're realistic and tailored because we've trained hundreds of people now, so we know what works, we know what doesn't work, and we keep building on it from that point in time. But to wrap up the podcast, if you are out there and you are struggling to think about a habit that you want to do this year, if you would like some help, please comment below the word habit in capital letters, and me and Nick will reach out to you personally and we'll get in touch and try and help you construct a habit. Okay? Because we're here to help people at the end of the day. And if you are genuinely struggling, please reach out to us. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I was going to mention, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, obviously messaging habit underneath the video won't necessarily allow us to speak to you. But if you go to our Instagrams, Perform Well Podcast on Instagram, you can just message habit there, and then we'll get in touch and help you with that.
Yeah. Or just message us and be like, I'm goddamn fucking confused. I need some help. And then we'll be like, all right, bud, we got you. We're coming your way.
We're not just going to sell you shit, okay? If you need help with stuff, we're here to help you. Don't worry.
At the end of the day, I think we're here just to help you guys, construct the habits and get on with your life. And if you're interested in coaching later down the line, obviously we're here for that too. But let's wrap up the podcast because we've appreciated your time. And we hope you guys are constructing some amazing habits out there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. And make sure before you leave that you subscribe, like, follow, and make sure you get your friends involved in the podcast. If you can, for us, this would be an amazing thing. Share this podcast to one person. If 110 of our subscribers do that, 210 people will see this, and 220 people, I can't do maths, can see this, and they can help construct a habit to change their life this year. Thank you very much, guys, and we will catch you later.